Never in history has there been a war in which people, civilians who are in crisis, are not allowed to escape from the battlefield. Yet this is exactly what's happening right now in Gaza, where incredulously Israel is being accused of blockading, laying siege to Gaza, when in reality, Israel is not the only country that has a border with Gaza. Egypt has a border with Gaza. In fact, an incredibly fortified war with Gaza, where Egypt is not allowing any Gazans to seek refuge in Egypt out of Gaza. This is an incredulous fact, an incredulous observation. Take a listen to how this idea is shared on the Piers Morgan show by former spokesperson of Israel, Jonathan Conricus.
I think you should update your poison. You should get an updated version of the talking points against Israel. All of the things you said they're quite low level. They're not very impressive. I've heard it a million times, and it's quite childish. It's interesting for me to hear that from an Egyptian. Last time I checked, Egypt is the second largest beneficiary of American money. And if you reportedly really care about your tax money, then have you asked yourself why the US is providing so much money to Egypt and what the US gets in return? And what I would like to know is, why is the Arab Egyptian Republic refusing to receive refugees, their Arab Muslim brothers from Gaza, and why are they so inhumane and cruel and preventing poor Gazans from escaping a war zone? Last time I checked, the only war where civilians have been prevented from leaving, escaping, fleeing a battlefield is this war. I cannot remember, and maybe you as a comedian can think of another war where civilians were prevented from a neighboring non-hostile state to flee the war. I cannot remember any such thing. And I think that the country where you come from has a lot to answer from. I know that you're more confident in bashing Israel and talking conspiracy theories and AIPAC this and that and all of the other nonsense that you regurgitated. But let's talk about Egypt. Let's talk about their responsibility. Let's talk about US funds to Egypt. Let's talk about their cruelty. Let's talk about how they have prevented humanitarian access to Gaza. Let's talk about the fact that they have built the world's biggest wall that dwarfs the Chinese wall and all Israeli security walls between Gaza and Egypt. Why did they do that? Out of Muslim compassion? Out of care for humanitarian rights of their Arab brothers? No. Because they want the poor Gazans in, and because they know that programs like this one and other programs will support Hamas propaganda and will blame Israel for what's happening.
It's interesting. The West is accusing Israel of randomly targeting civilians. This is where the accusation of genocide and baby killers, God forbid, such heinous crimes, war crimes that Israel is being accused of, because they are, of course, Israel is merely trying to rescue her hostages. There are 22 hostages that Israel knows of that are alive in Gaza as of the latest numbers, and 28 hostages that are confirmed dead. So that's 50 Israeli citizens, Jewish people, that Israel needs to retrieve. Yet the world doesn't talk about that, because they draw the focus on the narrative that Israel is committing some sort of a war crime, when in reality, that simple solution is simply when Egypt would allow the Gazans to run away from the battlefield so that Israel can finish what they need to do to find their hostages, as well as to demilitarize the Hamas ruthless leadership that swears to commit the massacres of October 7th again and again. But in reality, the reason why Egypt is not allowing any Gazans to find refuge in Egypt is because it helps the narrative by keeping the Gazan civilians inside of Gaza, inside of the war zone, and this is untenable. If you think about it, no Arab country is allowing Gazans to find refuge. Not Egypt, not Jordan, not Qatar, not Iran, not Yemen, nobody. If they cared so much about the Gazans, then why don't they give them access? It's not like Israel is blockading. To say that Israel is laying siege to Gaza is factually incorrect, when in reality what the Jewish people are doing is following the Torah doctrine, the Bible doctrine, which says, when someone rises up to attack you, you must attack them first. You cannot wait for them to take the first blow in order for you to retaliate. You must attack them before they can cause you any further harm. Here, Hamas has already attacked us, and we're trying to prevent a subsequent attack. We're trying to rescue our citizens. Israel cannot and must not apologize for exercising full force in demilitarizing the enemy, in being able to rescue our hostages, and to remove the threat which shamelessly and publicly announces their intention of doing it all over again. You know, the big difference between World War I and World War II was that World War I ended not in victory, it ended in a ceasefire. It ended in a truce. World War II ended in unconditional surrender. And this is a very, very critical difference for us to understand and appreciate. When the world demands from Israel a ceasefire with Hamas, then just like World War I, this will end with another attack. This will end with more loss of life, with a World War II. It's only when we have the courage to fight the battle to the end, to uproot evil until it's entirely gone. The Allies insisted on marching their forces through the capitals of Germany in unconditional surrender. And the same thing, unconditional surrender, they demanded from Japan. And that is what brought lasting peace. We must learn the lessons of our history, because we fail to are due to repeat them.